You right, Isabella?
Hey, what's up, brother?
Long time no see or hear.
Yeah, no. Got to yeah, let me go outside. Give me a second. Give me 1 minute, all right?
No worries, though.
How's everything though? How's everything doing?
Spot on, mate. How's yours? Seems that I've not seen you.
All right. Yeah. My girlfriend cheated on me. She left me. That's fine. I don't care. Like a week later, my best friend commits suicide. And I just been
Oh, sorry about that, mate.
that's what I've been dealing with. But I'm back. You know, I still got my tank and everything. I just haven't been on YouTube. I haven't had time to hop on the streams and everything like that.
I was going to say, with that much shit going off, I don't blame you.
But yeah, I'll be back on. You know, just YouTube, hopping on the streams. I just do nothing all day. Yeah. When I get on this, I get on everybody's stream. I just sit here in my room all day.
Dad, Mr. Sanjin left.
Who's that?
Mr. Sanjin left.
Hey, what's up, guys?
You all right, Seymour? You all right, Dave?
Hey.
Wait, I can't hear anybody. What the heck?
Hey, Sabella, sorry about all that shit that happened. Wow.
Yeah, it's all right. It's just I had a lot of stuff.
Those are all big things, though. So. Glad you're all right, buddy.
Yeah.
How you doing, Seymour? Can you hear us yet? Can you hear me now? Okay. Hey, CJ.
You all right, CJ?
Yo.
Dude, you want to hear something? I got a recall on all my cars for my airbags.
Really?
My Jaguar and my Honda and a Toyota.
All three of them? Airbags?
All three of them, yeah. And I'll read you right now why.
Wow.
It's a bag manufacturer. It says they stabilize ammonium nitrate propellant. Anything that contains ammonium nitrate propellant, they're recalling.
Wow. Guess that's
You
not
got your
good.
car back yet, Dave?
What's that?
Have you sorted your car now?
My car? No, it's still not. I still didn't do the motor vehicle on it. Mine has an airbag light on it. I haven't looked into it yet. So I might be in the same boat.
It's crazy, right? Look at this. Look at this. All four cars. Four of them.
Well,
three of them, which I have.
I smashed my Cadillac on a Garden State Parkway. Ended up on my side. Airbags never went off, so that might tell you something.
Did you get hurt?
What do you guys think of that $1,000 deal that dude was talking about?
Wait, did you get hurt? That picture.
No, I'm okay. Everybody was okay.
Would you ride up the back of somebody's car?
Car wouldn't stop. It was like I was on ice, brother.
Wow.
You know how the anti-lock brakes just hum? That's all it was doing. It seemed to go faster, actually, when I hit the brakes. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Oh, you said it was on the Garden State?
Yeah, right after the toll. I mean, I was only doing like 30.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, CJ. What's up?
Okay, this phone I can't for some reason. You know when I upgraded to this stupid iPhone, and I upgraded to the version that they disappeared. Well, the earplug jack or whatever is gone on the new phone.
Right.
So now I can't use all my headsets without the stupid attachment on it.
Yeah, you got to get that adapter, I guess, right?
You know,
It's
different
Apple.
places, so I
It's
always
Apple.
have one.
When you buy a new phone, they want you to buy all new shit.
Like that one dude got, man, that dude got like $10,000 worth of stocks.
You broke up a little bit. One dude got 10 something worth of stuff.
Yeah, that dude that was just on my last live stream got that custom tank and all that Radeon equipment and all of that stuff for $1,000.
Nice. Wow. I just got home. I missed your stream, brother.
Yeah, some people land on their feet and it's never me.
Yeah, let me disconnect and come back in.
If I spend $1,000, I'd probably get about $800 worth of stuff. That's how my luck goes.
Same as me, Dave.
But I did see Reefing with O today, and I got a new J-Bo pump. Well, new to me.
With J-Bo pump.
I don't know. He said it was about 800 gallons per hour. I didn't even take it out of the bag and look at it yet. The small DC return pump.
Got those, I heard a 50, got those big TP pump.
I'm not
There
sure.
we go.
I'm not sure. He'll come on. He'll tell me what he gave me.
Am I still breaking up now?
When you first came in, you were a little robot, but you sound good now. Those iPhones, man, they don't like Google Streams.
Yeah, I always have problems connecting the pause streams, man, for some reason. I can never get on these live streams.
Hey, Cruz.
You got to restart your phone 5 times.
It's that Manchester internet. We're all sharing his Manchester connection.
Get a new tank.
You got the new tank?
I don't know. I'm looking. Well, I'm gonna get a cube, right? And then I'm gonna get a Fred tank, and then I'm gonna get a new tank.
Yes.
It's all going on now. I saved about $30,000. I got things going.
Save me a piece of red planet, brother.
Yours dog? Yours dog?
Yeah, it jumped. Something knocked it off the rock right into a bubble coral.
Yeah, pick one up. I got like 10 frags in them.
Yeah, I know. I got that one from you. It never looked as good as when I got it from you, though. So maybe I shouldn't have it yet.
Come pick one up. I'm gonna come out to stand on if you want. Give you a nice piece of it. I can't take this colony no more. It's too big.
Yeah, I wish I had those troubles.
Dave, you home, Dave?
Yeah, I got home. Which pump was that you gave me? Sabella was just asking.
J-Bo. Let me see.
Is it the WP
It's a
No,
or
return,
the RP?
not a wave maker. It's a return pump.
Ah,
it's
That's the WP was my favorite they made.
it's a DCS 3000.
nice. DC motor. 0 to 10.
Yeah, I put my my Vectra M1 back on the system today because I had a Reef Octopus Varios 8 pump for 2 months and it was already starting to like, yeah. And then when I contacted Coral View, you know, they said it was because I was using 3/4 inch plumbing, which was too restrictive, which was damaging the motor.
Sounds like bullshit, don't it?
Yeah, it
Guy
does
said,
sound like it, doesn't it?
yeah, the guy said you needed to use 1.25 inches. I said, nowhere does it recommend what size plumbing I should use. I said, you know, but yeah. But eventually I raised, you know, I kind of told the guy, like, hey, man, like, this is ridiculous because it's only 2 months old and it's already making, he's like, turn it down, but you're going to have to deal with the noise from now on because you already damaged it. I'm like, what? So finally, you know, I got pissed. And finally he said, send it in. And he was being really ambiguous with the language. He's like, send it in and we'll test it and we'll, you know, our engineers will test it and see if it sort of warrants like us repairing it. He's been very ambiguous with the language, basically not promising to fix it. So they'll test it and see if it was my fault. The pump is like making, you know.
I don't know. That's crazy because what are you supposed to do for a pump in the meantime? You're gonna go buy another one, right?
And why would you actually waste an engineer's time on testing a pump? That's, you know, basically discardable.
Yeah, but you bought it through CoralView, right?
I bought it from BRS.
Oh, BRS.
Yeah, but still, there's no engineers at CoralView that will go through the paces on a $100 pump. In an hour, they've already bought their pump. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. An hour of it.
Well, maybe they're going to have Ryan fill buckets with it and see how many gallons. See how many times Ryan could fill a 5-gallon bucket in an hour.
That's funny. But no, I like the way that they toss around words like scientists, engineers, and half the people that are quote unquote testing it doesn't. You know, they just kind of plug it in and say, "Oh yeah, it works."
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, and you don't know what you're talking about, and it's like, really? But it makes noise, you know. And I don't know. It just seems like they're trying to. Some people try to sound a little bit more important. Some companies try to sound, you know, they're trying to, how do you say, intimidate you by saying, "Oh yeah, well these smart guys are going to be testing smart things on this dumb pump." You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make dollars for cents when you're actually saying these educated, you know, skilled people are going to be testing a pump for cavitation or making sound. It doesn't jive, especially when it's not made here. Do you know what I'm saying? When it's not made here in the United States, what really are they going to test for?
Right, exactly.
Oils, windings.
Well, I'll read you the email. They're going to test it to ensure that it draws the right amount of power and pushes the right amount of water. End quote. Like, I'm reading the email to you.
Oh yeah, but I would like to know how much amperage, not how much power. The amperage, the coil, the losses, the efficiency ratings. I mean, those are the kind of things that you ask for in a larger pump. You know, you're talking about higher levels of, how do you say it?
Information.
Specification. Yeah, specifications for a pump.
Tell them you want to know the flux pattern of the magnets.
Exactly. There's a rotor and there's a stator. Big deal. You know, the only thing that I could think of is that you probably have a bent shaft. Do you know what
And
I'm
that's
saying?
not from running it on 3/4 plumbing. It doesn't bend the shaft because you ran it on smaller plumbing.
That doesn't affect, you know, that doesn't affect the shaft deflection though.
I mean, well, this is, yeah, I know it's what you're saying, Cruz, is way over my head. I just know that it just didn't sound right. Like my BS meter kind of went up when he said that. Because it was working fine, and then one day it just started making this loud sound.
Yeah, it's typically a manufacturing issue and an alignment issue. There's too much play in one of the freaking grommets that actually holds the shaft together to the impeller plate on the intake side and also on the freaking down on the back side of the rotor.
Yeah,
I know how both sides have rubber.
I did call BRS. Someone in the chat is saying BRS should take. So I did call BRS about a separate issue and just mentioned it to them. And the guy said, Coral View should take care of it. But if you don't get any help at all, like, get back to us.
How much does
Absolutely.
that pump cost? Just
Oh,
ballpark. How much does that pump cost?
I'll tell you right now.
You paid for it, but what does it go for?
I'm telling you, $375. That's what I paid for it.
$375 for a return pump.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be humming.
Yeah, I remember my pump kind of failed right before I went on vacation. So, I had bought this pump, and because I wanted to kind of change plumbing size, and then I realized, like, there's a part on the Red Sea tanks where I can change the plumbing size, but the Red Sea built-in plumbing, there's parts that I can't change, and it's ½ inch. It's 3/4 inch, and I can't change it. So I figured, why go through all the trouble of making everything? Well, it's going to be restricted at a certain point. So I was probably thinking of sending it back, but then the day before I went on vacation, my return pump failed. The power supply went on my Vectra. So I had no choice but to sort of use this because I was leaving. It was literally 6 o'clock in the morning. We were leaving like 11 o'clock. And 6 o'clock in the morning, I was, in Home Depot buying parts, putting the Varios on. And, for the most part, I was okay with it. I could connect it to the Apex. It had a couple other things that, like a float. Yeah, I connected it to Apex, and I was fine with it. And then, 2 months later, like, this happened. And, but then I spoke to, a couple other reefers who use Reef Octopus pumps, and then, they said, yeah, Coral View wasn't exactly forthcoming with helping. So,
well, it's kind of like Honeywell. I mean, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Honeywell. They do a lot of parts, but they don't do a lot of support. They just put things on the shelf and they sell it. That's the end of their support. That's the end of their support, and their warranty is, if it's on the shelf, they've done their job.
You're right, and it's all made in Mexico.
Exactly, and they don't want to support it because that's where a lot of time, a lot of money is actually spent. And also the education and training, customer service, that's where a lot of time is, and that's where a lot of the dollars were going were to these higher skilled people who could actually troubleshoot things. And I mean, in this case, for a $300 pump, I would have sent you another one if I was a manufacturer, and just say, you know what, just return yours. Give us the freaking tracking number, and we'll send one out as soon as you give us the tracking number.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
But it just makes me not wanna kind of deal with. Makes me just not wanna. I'll never put anything expensive Coral View probably on my tank anymore. To be honest, like, I know Ecotech. I'm in New York, and Ecotech is in Pennsylvania, and I know Ecotech has, take it, like, the power supply for my Vectra, it's out of warranty, but they're assisting me. I didn't expect, I went ahead and bought one anyway, but they said, hey, we've noticed that over the years, you've had a lot of power supply fails. There might be something else going on. So send us the old one. We'll inspect it, but we'll send you a new one. I'm glad to get like a free replacement, but, at least I know over the years, this is not the first time Ecotech has repaired something for me that's out of warranty, and they've never given me an issue. It's always like, hey, you're having a problem. Like, let me help you figure it out.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Do you have any problem with refrigerators or televisions, Seymour?
Not really.
Okay, just curious.
Not really, but, I am going to probably get some other UPS. So Dave gave me a UPS today. I saw Dave today, and he gave me a UPS because over the years I've had a good amount of pieces of equipment failed because the power supply failed on my tank. So I'm gonna put, you guys see behind me my television with my nice expensive speaker system is right next to the tank. So I'm gonna have a UPS for that equipment. For not only for the tank, the tank is on its own. I put the tank on the AC breaker, which is I think at 20 amp. The TV is on its own, so I'm going to put a UPS. Each of these pieces of equipment, which probably have the most expensive equipment here. I'm gonna put these on a UPS, and then in the kitchen, I don't know. I'll do some research about maybe putting one on the fridge too. Not because I want it, to. No.
Well, they make small surge protectors to just take up the space of an outlet. In other words, you take the outlet cover off and push this into the outlet, and it's just a little bigger, and that'll surge protect, which is what it sounds like.
It's
a brownout will kill your refrigerator. A surge is what's killing your electronics.
Yeah. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the inrush current, especially when your compressor starts going on your refrigerator or on your air conditioner. The inrush current's also what the electricity people, like ComEd would actually read, and they'll charge you premiums for those every time you spike or go over a threshold voltage. Even though it's only an inrush, they're still charging you for premium for, I want to say, at least half hour.
Right.
As
that happen, if you're dropping below your standard voltage while it's asking for more voltage, that's when the refrigerator is going to crap out.
Well, I've had this. You guys can't see it, but to my right, I've had AC. Like, yeah, this has gone out a couple times. So much so that I have replacement cables and replacement motherboards just here, and I've swapped them out. Yeah. So yeah, you guys are making me think. Yeah, you guys are making me think like there's something going on. But it's interesting. This summer, I got I have the new Apex, the 2016 Apex. I got it early February. There were a few days this summer where my Apex was warning me, giving me some warning about some power line issue. And, I called an electrician friend of mine, and he said, when I gave him the messages, he said, like the line coming in is like lower than what it's expecting. I hope I'm using the right terminology, but he said that's normal. He said on days that there's high use, like it was one of the warmer days of the summer. He said the electrical company does that on purpose. So this was the first time I've ever noticed that. It happened a couple of times this summer. So
the simple equation for that is power equals IV. In order to keep the current high, you have to drop the voltage because power is power. So lowering the voltage allows them to serve more people and more utilization. So yeah, you're going to have a drop in voltage, and that's where a capacitor or where the UPS actually comes in, especially an inline UPS. Especially the dual inverter types, that are always online for your computers, for servers and stuff like that. They maintain a fixed voltage. Does that make sense? Even though you might be coming in with a lower voltage, the output of the UPS is always at a consistent, whatever 110 volts that you're looking for.
Yep.
It never drops.
That's what Dave and I think Reef dudes explained to me the other day. So I'm glad to get this UPS. I'm going to put it on probably tonight.
What's the make and model?
It's a Minuteman something 900. It's a smaller unit.
It's the APC one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's got a surge side and a battery backup side that could,
Very nice.
Put your return pump on the battery backup side. It'll run it for a couple of hours if the power ever cuts out.
Yeah, and Dave, I looked up. I put it all the way across, so I put it somewhere. I was sort of wiping it down. But the batteries, I forgot the price, but I think I'm gonna pay to replace the batteries because it's not that. If I plug it in, I'm gonna test to see how long the batteries run. But replacing the batteries is not terribly expensive.
And it should be done about every 5 years on any gel battery.
Yep.
That's what I do. I replace batteries just because they're 5 years old sometimes. So.
Yeah, you have to.
And the Honeywell.
That's one of the things that. Yeah, that's one of the things that people overlook as well. They think that batteries last forever, and they don't. Especially on the UPSs. There should be a maintenance. There should also be a testing button that you could actually take, break it offline off the main feed and test it, make sure that the battery is holding charge. Yeah.
Yep. It's
You get
even
what
got a
you pay for when
USB
it
cord.
comes down to UPS.
It's even got a
What?
USB cord. You can hook it to your computer. It'll tell your computer to shut off when it goes to battery. So.
Mhm. Very nice.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I really appreciate it. So
If you want another one, I'll get you another one next time I see you. I run across them all the time. Don't worry about it.
all right. All right. So yeah, so hopefully that kind of solves. But in all the time I've had Ecotech equipment, it's always the power supply that fails. And it's always the power supply that failed. And then I'm glad now at least I have a few, backed up, a few on hold.
Yep.
Yeah. And the only reason why it fails is because they're trying to size the transformer to be as small as possible. And they're running in the 80 to 90% range of the total transformer capacity. In industry, we tend to want to only run the transformer at 40%. So you're already talking about double the capacity of a normal UPS, or you know what I'm saying, or a normal system, or a normal transformer.
You allow a certain headroom, and they don't.
Exactly, and it starts overheating when you start drawing in too much amps, or you have power inconsistencies where you have the spikes. Well, in order to dissipate some of these spikes and inconsistencies of your, what I would call the grid system, electrical power distribution, it has to dissipate it into heat. And when it actually does that, it also shortens down the life of a lot of the electronics in our world. You're talking about, the windings on the frame transformers start melting. You're starting to get higher resistance due to temperature increases. So yeah, your overall efficiency goes down, and it has to work harder. And it's kind of like a snowball effect on the heat side for transformers. So.
Also, do they have room to breathe, or are they all smashed under the stand?
A lot of times those transformers are enclosed because it's in a wet environment, right?
No, I'm just asking. Got it all stuffed in a corner behind the stand, so it can't even breathe. You stack a few on top of each other to save space, and they heat each other up.
Bingo.
So try to spread them out. Get a little air between them.
Yeah, I like seeing. I like seeing stacked transformers. It's funny. You know. I see it at the office all the time, and we're like, "What the hell are you?" Okay, I get that, but you're supposed to breathe.
Yeah. Haley back. Sorry, Haley.
Anybody here has used the Vectra S1? A friend of mine, a buddy of mine, I'm helping him with his build. He bought it, and now he's really concerned. That the reviews are just bad, and he's just reading a lot of places where people are saying like the coupling just comes off. Yeah, I noticed it on the M1 where sort of like at the top, the thing that screws down on the Ecotech Vectra pumps, but for the M1 and the L1, it really holds well. But you have to tighten it. Like today when I put it back on the tank, I didn't tighten it properly, and probably water spewed everywhere. So you have to tighten it. But once you tighten it properly and make sure it's straight, it doesn't slip off. But man, BRS has bad reviews, and he found some other websites where they just had bad reviews about the Vectra S1, where people are just saying like the little thing that screws like the barb on top just comes off. Everyone is saying that about it.
See, but you have to take a look at the way that people are piping things too. A lot of them are actually hard piping, and that's for a piece of vibrational equipment, such as a motor, you tend to want to utilize flex. And that's one of the things that people don't understand is you're trying to dampen the vibrations coming from the motor. Whether or not it's in the water or not, it still has vibration.
Yep.
And if you're actually doing the, tightening down the freaking barbell, the little O-ring or the lock ring onto the barbell, you really kind of want to go ahead and torque it down to a spec. And I know that Vectra had a torque spec on there in the instruction manual, but nobody reads it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Everyone says the 3/4 inch collar is slips when tightening down, and they said they had it plumbed and it always slips out.
See, but what thickness? Yeah, what thickness of tubing are they using?
No one has made no one has mentioned the tubing or what kind of thing. It's just that, you know, my friend just bought it and then he's seeing the reviews and he's worried, like, should I send the thing back? Because, you know,
well, I mean, if you're really concerned about that, there's a thing that's called what is it called? A zip tie. Yes. A zip tie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But you know what? I don't know. I'm guessing, Cruz, by reading some of the reviews, I purchased this pump. I don't think it's the hose bar slipping off. I think it's the connection to the pump, the little thing that you use to tighten it down. That's the thing that keeps slipping off.
The flange, or what would look like a U?
If you look,
it's the lock ring, the
lock ring. Yeah, the blue threaded ring. Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. I'm using my detective skills based on the.
Not only that, Oral. About it. How many people actually over tighten everything? Do you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about, Dave, where they over tighten?
Yeah, once it pops that one, once it skips once, it's done. It's not going to get any tighter. And you usually crack something or strip something. It's all plastic.
Oh man, the Red Sea tanks. Oh man, these are what, you know, in I have the Red Sea Reefer, the 350. And man, I know a couple of people cracked their tanks because Red Sea has this feature. You know, it's not really a screw, but it's an O-ring where you put it in, insert it, and turns it like a half a turn, and it locks in. But I think people just put like like you get like a wrench and just over tighten it and just crack it. And then the way it's set up in there, you basically have to get a new tank. Because there's parts of the plumbing that Red Sea doesn't. It's not user serviceable. It's not serviceable at all.
Exactly. How many people have seen bulkheads over tighten and the friggin' the gasket is spilling out on both sides and it's not holding water back anymore? How many people have seen that?
My first drill job in bulkhead, I tightened it. I over tightened it. And my friend came by and said, yo, you have it over tight. I'm like, what are you talking about? He literally did like a quarter turn, loosening it a little bit, and it stopped leaking.
I use my hand in a rag on anything plastic. If that didn't get it tight enough, that's just about it.
Yep, a little, and that's it.
Yeah.
You tighten it down as far as, just loosely to where it's like touching, and then you go, a little quarter turn. And
yeah, we're not talking high pressure here. We're talking a few pounds of square inch, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah, I definitely made that mistake. I definitely did.
I think we all did at one point in time. You know, the tighter the better, right? The bigger the better, the more the better.
I've seen people crack part of the bulkhead between the nut and the flange, like where the tanks cracked it.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand what was going on. It's like every time you tighten it, you're opening up the middle.
Yep, exactly. It flexes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of funny. I've also seen people put the bulkhead gaskets on both sides of the friggin' on both sides of the thing.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about, Dave? I've seen double gasket O-rings.
I got some bulkheads on Amazon, like a 4-pack, and they all came with 2 O-rings. And I said, well, that's great, but I hope nobody's trying to put them on both sides.
Well, they do.
Better get a lot of Vaseline or something.
Exactly. The other one's supposed to be a spare, but they don't explain that to you.
Right.
You know, and you kind of keep it. You keep it in a sandwich bag in the refrigerator, and that's where all your O-rings go.
I got 4 of them for $13, 1 inch.
What?
So it was great. Yeah, on Amazon, 4 1-inch bulkheads. for $13, and they had double gaskets. I was like, wow, bonus. I haven't used one yet, so I don't know how good they are, but they have the raised ribs on the gaskets too, so it seems like a good one.
Have you sorted your tank out,
Very
Dave?
nice.
Yeah, no, I had the overflow. I glued it on crooked. I scraped it off last night and re-glued it.
Good, good. So how are you doing, Cruz?
Hey, doing all right, Paul. How you doing, mate?
How's the elbow?
Oh, good. How's the what?
Yeah, re-encrusted.
That's good.
The little frag chip re-encrusted itself to the main colony.
All right.
I raised my calcium and my magnesium levels internally.
I hear you.
Yeah, Langside's been in touch with me, Cruz.
Oh, really?
Yeah, been sending me a few messages. Got myself a new Facebook buddy.
What?
Dude, like that? Dude, hit me right in the feelings, Paul. Right in the feelings.
Oh yeah, he's been throwing that in everybody's face lately. His new friend Ling.
Yeah, it's just Cruz, my friend Langsai, right?
Oh, yes.
Well, I was talking to Ling Sai about it, and he said,
"Well, yeah, he wanted pictures of me tank, Cruz, of all my corals."
Nice.
Yeah.
So I sent them on.
Yeah, we're wanting to put it on the ecosystem aquarium, the new page that we're actually developing right now.
Wait,
I say he's very keen.
Wait, Cruz, you work with ecosystems?
Yeah, he's
that's why he's always pushing the mud.
Oh, I just wondered because he said we. I thought he was.
No, he's my mentor. He taught me everything.
Martin got it
from the beginning.
Did you not know that? Did you not know that, Steve?
No, I didn't.
And he introduced me to Steve. He introduced me to Mike through Steve. Yeah. Very, very influential people in my life.
Oh, yeah, well, I text Rico all the time, so there.
Every one of you is influential to my life.
Oh, Steve is here. How you doing? How's you doing?
Oh, hey, Stevie.
Yeah, Cruz. He was very interested, like the way I'm doing it. You know, through the reactor.
Yes, he was.
Well, like, when I was speaking to him. Yeah, when I was speaking to him, he was at first he was like, ooh, but he told me to put he wants me to put a tang in my system, well, actual line.
Yep. Take a picture of it and show how it heals it.
I think that's what he wants me to do. Yeah.
Yeah, we've run multiple tests.
How much faster it exhausts the mud being in the reactor, if at all?
Well, I think the way we worked it out. Yeah, I think the way we worked it out, because I'm putting about 1.5 pounds in, and it's flowing through all of it like constantly. So I think it works out between 3 and 4 months. You'll need to change it. So it just works out around the same as just putting the same amount. If you put it all in at once, it works. That could stay 18 months. But if you do it in a reactor, you're replacing it.
Whereas
so it's about 18 months and all.
You know, you're utilizing all of it, whereas in a sump, there's that dead zone underneath, you know, that you are getting it eventually, but you're not getting it right away.
Yeah. And you're also creating an anoxic zone for the trace denitrification if you want to do it that way. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessary, but it's always nice to have as a backup or a safety net, especially for the denitrification.
I think I think the other way you're going to be using it, you got like your pods are going to be growing in it and all that, so you've got all that going for it when you put it in all at once in your Tupperware tubs or on the bottom of your sump. Right. The way I'm doing it, I'm just utilising all the elements that are coming out of it.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Exactly. So to me, I reckon there's two processes. There is two processes to it. What I personally think you can have out of it.
Yeah.
And you could also plant stuff in it, you know, just like a regular substrate. You'd be able to plant stuff directly into the mud.
I have Caulerpa, and the rind zone just goes in and out of that miracle mud. It's the happiest piece of calorific.
Happy as a pig in mud.
Exactly.
I think the way I'm doing it, I think it suits a lot of people that haven't got a refugium. Do you know what I mean? So I think you could utilize it that way, using it in a reactor, and get yourself a Chateau reactor and all.
Yeah, especially
yeah, exactly.
You're very, very limited in space.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like for me, all I've seen is benefits. I've not seen nothing negative about it. So for me, I'm happy. All I've had is growth. Well, a few weeks ago, a friend of mine, he's brought some iron corals, put them in my system to look after. I've put them into my tank. One of them's touching the side of the glass at the back of the tank, and it's already based onto the glass. That's 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean? So, and he got that from Worldwide Corals, actually. So that's from Worldwide Corals.
Yep. Obviously, something's not happy, right?
Oh, my polyps don't go in. And if they don't go in, something's right.
Yeah.
That's what I told her.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh, man, last night we were streaming until the 8 hours was finished, which was 2:30. And then Michael and Haley were and Reef. Oh, man, I forgot the guy's name. We were on until I think I fell asleep about 3:30.
Repack was in last night.
Repack. I fell asleep about 3:30, and I think those guys were like going on after that. And Michael was driving; he was on a route, so he needed company. So Maid stayed up. So more power to them, man. I think we talked about every topic. When we didn't have enough reef tank stuff to speak about. We talked about politics, man. It was good.
Have you got Miracle Mud? Oh, sorry, Dave.
New York City tourism we started with.
Yep. Yeah, I use Miracle Mud. I use it in the little refugium. I like it. I can't speak to the trace elements and stuff that people. I've never kind of tested that or anything, but for me, it's the best substrate to grow pods. As somebody who sort of was a deep sand bed fanatic and experimented with different substrate size. I know that substrate size has a lot to do with, growing certain types of macrofauna, amphipods, copepods. But for me, maybe if I had done a deep sand bed with maybe Miracle Mud, I would have had more success with a deep sand bed. But once I put deep sand bed in a refugium, I've never seen better growth, reproduction from pods, because whatever the substrate size is with Miracle Mud, they absolutely love it. It reproduces, it's conducive to pods, amphipods. So for me, I like Miracle Mud because it's the best substrate to grow pods. And I have 2 mandarins and I need pods. So I'm a fan of Miracle Mud for that.
Oh.
Philip just said in the chat that he's got 10 pounds of Miracle Mud coming on Friday, and he hopes it helps his tangs with the lateral line. So definitely document that, Philip, because he's got one with lateral line.
All the lads around here.
What size tank?
All the lads around.
What's Philip got the same as Ed? He's got a XL or something. So Philip, what size system?
Yeah, Cruz, I've got all the people around there doing it in reactors, round near me.
Excellent.
So,
we're.
I think that's when.
We were trying to show the versatility of the Miracle Mud, not only as a living substrate filter, but also a breeding ground for copepods. Also great for macroalgae tanks. Running it, there's multiple ways to actually utilize the substrate. Not only as a substrate, but also as a filter media, a living filter, for that matter.
Yeah.
And I
was going to say when I was at this. Oh, go on, Chris.
Oh no, go, please.
I was going to say when I was at the.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I was going to say when I was at this trade show, I was speaking to one of the companies there. Obviously, one that you work. I won't be saying names online, but one that you that you work with. and they are keen on getting a reactor. After seeing what I've been doing, they're keen on selling reactors with Miracle Mud. You know what I mean? So it could work a few ways.
Oh yeah, I spoke with them as well. Spoke with Stacy a couple of times regarding that. So no, we're on track. We're on track, Paul. We're connected.
Good.
So Philip has
they're connected to me. Go on, Dave.
Philip has a 58 gallon and a 525 XI reefer. He says his hippo tang has some scarring on his face, and his yellow tang is really disfigured, top fin really damaged. So he's gonna keep us up posted on the Miracle Mud process.
Absolutely. Remember also when you're utilizing the Miracle Mud, to heal scars, that oxygenation is also very, very key to the delivery of a lot of the trace and macro and micronutrients, and a lot of the trace elements. The availability needs to be there with the oxygen.
So do you mean bubble scrubbing or just good surface agitation?
Degassing in general, making sure that you're pulling in fresh outside air into your skimmer, and then also the micro bubbling as well to actually supplement the gas exchange.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, Steve's got a question. Steve said, how often do you change it in the reactor? I think when I was speaking to Cruz, I think Cruz said between 3 and 4 months. 3 and 4 months, Cruz.
Yeah, depending on the amount. So we're gonna you and I
are putting 1.5 pounds in.
Yeah, you and I. Well, 1.5 pounds. What size reactor though, and what flow rate? Those are very, very key. Key things to also take note of.
Yeah, I've got the Seymour. What reactor have I got? The Reef.
The Max Bellin?
Seymour, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, Seymour knows what reactor I've got.
No.
The
Ultra Reef?
Yeah, I've got the Ultra Reef reactor.
Okay.
So at the start, I literally brimmed it, like to the top. But it was so hard to get the water to push through it. I lowered it, and around 1.5 pounds, I got a really nice flow. I'm using 1,000 litres an hour. I know Americans do it differently, but I'm using 1,000 litres an hour, and I've got it running at about 500 litres an hour through it.
Are you guessing or are you
just so it rocks at the top? Oh, pounds wise, yeah, there is 1.5 pounds of it in there.
Okay, excellent.
Because I got the 3 pound tub and I put half of it in.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
So it's very, very similar to a sedimentary filtration system, where you're actually pushing it through the sediment in order to actually channel the water through the I want to call them micro channels around each particulate. So you're actually pushing more water area and having higher surface contact time.
Yeah.
You're utilizing it. You're utilizing it well.
Can you show Can you show the reactor now, like live? I'd like to see how much.
What I am going to do, in fact, what we'll do over the next day or two, I'm going to fill it back up. So I'm going to put fresh in because it's been just knocking on 4 months since I put it in. So what I'll do, like in the next day or two, I'll do a live stream and I'll fill it up and connect it all up on a live stream, all fresh, just to show you how much I'm putting into the reactor and what the flow is and all that.
Yeah, you gotta. And
I
think
the last time that
you did that, Paul. I think the last time you did that, Paul, you got like a little gush of some of the mud silt, right?
Oh yeah, but that went away in. Yeah,
like
about 30 minutes. It was crystal clear again. Yeah.
Exactly.
If anything, when that did happen. Oh, go on, Dave.
Oh no, Philip was asking to ask Cruz if it takes care of the scarring, and it's been a couple of years, so he was just curious.
Yes. Believe it or not, when you give the fish, organisms, corals, whatever, what they need to heal, the scar is going to be barely visible, but you'll notice that it's significantly improved. Like,
Okay.
you know how when we heal, we get a little bit of a keloid, right? On a cut or, you know, on a burn, we get keloid scars where it kind of like raises up a little bit. You'll see a little bit of trace of that, of maybe a little bit of a darkening, or maybe, you know, lack of pigmentation on certain areas. But overall, you're going to see the wound heal, and that's the miracle that we're trying to capture when we actually called it miracle mud.
Gotcha. Okay. He's been using Celcon. He's been using Celcon, and the line is actually gone, mainly just scarring now.
Well, give it. I mean, Celcon's good for the fatties and, you know, all the other, you know, omegas and everything else that you actually need. But remember this too: along with the vitamins, you also need the minerals to balance out the vitamins. And I'm sure that Paul's mentioned this a couple of times, is that some of the proprietary bottles that we have, some of the solutions, it's balanced between minerals and vitamins, you know, where it actually works together in synergy as opposed to, you know, dosing this bottle and then dosing another bottle. It's blended together for a reason. Does that kind of make sense, guys? Where the balance ingredient was which vitamins and which minerals go with the vitamins, they have to go hand in hand in a proper ratio, and that ratio is proprietary. But, you know, over time, the education of it will be very, very apparent, and I think that you guys will actually understand it. Somebody's going to crack the code.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah, when I was speaking to Lang, Cruz, he said them bottles. He said that's miracle mud in liquid form.
Pretty much. I mean,
somebody's thinking about it. We don't have to figure it out, you know, what the balance is.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Dave. I missed it. Sorry.
Oh no, I said it's good that you guys have figured out a balance, so we don't have to play with it on our end, because, you know, like earlier we discovered we're not plumbers, we're reefers. Well, we're not chemists either, but we were trying to dabble in.
Exactly, or electricians, or we're trying to keep something alive the best we know how with effort possible. Is that true?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I do too. I mean, that was the whole point of the miracle mud, is increase the life of your skimmer and skimmer maintenance schedules and water change schedules. You know, how do you prolong it, you know, and lengthen the time between changes? And I mean, that's one of the reasons why we do say, you know, you should lessen your time on your skimmer so that you're not pulling out all the good stuff and all the beneficial good stuff.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't understand that. They're doing water changes after they just toast, you know, Red Sea colors, and then 2 days later they're freaking pulling it out, doing a water change, and then having to dose back up again.
Exactly.
I don't get that mentality.
Yeah, you pour it down a drain, 10%, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm afraid for their wallet. I'm afraid for their pocketbooks, and I'm afraid for the inhabitants in their reef tanks from experiencing those huge swings of depletion. You know, every time that they deplete the system and put in fresh salt that does not have the trace elements. But there are salts out there now that do have it. So
I'm glad you mentioned huge swings, because the next question is, can Cruz explain the proper way to introduce miracle mud into the sump? I'm sure there are instructions, but I'd like to hear it from him if he can. Do you soak it first? Things like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, what we do is we take the tank water and we pre-soak the mud. We don't rinse it, we pre-soak it so that it's totally waterlogged. You have a little thin layer of, you know, water above it. We typically put it in tubs because it makes maintenance a little bit easier. There's other people that would actually dump it directly in, like Mike Paletta, where they would actually dump it directly into the sump and scoop it out with a, you know, with a Daisy sour cream cup or something like that, or a scoop. when it comes time to change. Over here at Elegant Corals, we utilize trays for the mud. Makes it a little bit easier. We put a date on it with indelible marker, with indelible ink, so that we know exactly when we put it in, when it's going to expire. Yeah. So yeah, as you're lowering it into your sump area in this Tupperware container, you go down as slow as possible. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of, I want to call a cloud or a puff of mud. But at that point, you should have had your return pump off.
Right.
It's not going to hurt anything, but I know that some people don't like to muddy their tanks, and
it didn't bother my tank,
have a problem doing it. Yeah, you like to muddy your tank.
Honestly, when it went in, it was like a cloud, like a dust storm in the system.
Yeah, like a billow.
Like I said, but within
a billow.
Within 30 minutes. Yeah. Hey, the corals opened up. Every single coral in my tank, the polyps was out on it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So,
and
like I said, the corals liked it.
Oh, exactly. And remember this too. Remember that there's a reef over there in the Amazonia. There's the Great Barrier Reef over there in Australia, and there's a lot of I want to call freshwater runoff. And the freshwater runoff is typically muddy. It carries a lot of the sediment, the sand. A lot of the silt. Yeah, exactly. The silt. And that's where the corals, there's a reason why they have mouths, and it's not just necessarily to feed on food. It's also a means to get the minerals into their system.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. They suck in the mucus.
Yeah.
The mucus collects the silt, and then they pull the mucus back in with the silt. And that's how they get their minerals.
It's like every now and then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, every now and then I'll waft inside my sump. A little bit of mud will flow through. You see it glisten inside your tank. But to me, it looks nice. You get that glisten from the mud. And it's like you've got gold floating in your tank, and it does look nice. Like I said, but it disappears in 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, we do have gold flakes and silver flakes in the system. The silver silver actually acts as an inhibitor to gram-negative bacteria. So a lot of the detrimental bacteria, it also limits the population of that.
I thought those were the miracles, all the shiny things floating around in there.
Yeah, well, it is, Dave. I'm gonna get my gold pan out there and start sifting it.
No, Tinkerbell's envious of all the twinkle that we have.
He also asked for a depth, and I was told it was 1.5 inches at least.
Yeah, we do an inch and a half to 2 inches. The most that we've ever done was about 2.5 inches. Just because we didn't pull any out, and it was in the actual refugium itself, and there was plants in there, so we didn't want to disturb the plants, so we just added more miracle mud. There was no detrimental effect.
I thought it was like the amount that you had to put in, and not the thickness.
Oh, it's
like someone had a sump.
It's based on both surface area, contact time, and you're doing that with the reactor already.
Right.
Yeah. Like the reactor, I knew about inches in reactor because I'm doing it a different way, but I thought a sump. I just thought it had to be so many pounds per volume of water.
But there is
not like a thickness in the sump.
Exactly. You would think surface area too, but you're getting away with less, but it's going to exhaust faster. Whereas when we put it in our sump, we're looking for a little anaerobic area on the bottom, which will also help. So
yeah. Like I said, with me, I'm utilizing the minerals that are in it and the vitamins and all that stuff that are in it. Where if you put it into your sump, you're utilizing that and the anaerobic side of it.
Yeah, I came in questioning it a little bit, or not even questioning it, just not sure. So I only bought 2 pounds, and it comes with the little tray and everything, which was, it seemed to all fit nicely in there. I soaked it overnight. I waited till the little bit of water on top was clear, not that silty, so I could submerge like my tongs in there and still see them. And then I just put it in the sump. So I will buy more, and I don't need to get the 2 pound to get the little plastic tray. I think I'd come up with something else. But it was nice. It was a nice way to start.
Yeah. Phil's just said here, change it out or so every 6 months. I don't think it's 6 months. It's longer than 6 months, isn't it, Cruz?
18 months, I thought it was, or 2 years.
It is. It is. If you're utilizing the full volume from the ecosystem site, and we're trying to update that right now, based on gallons, flow, and some other calculations. Just basically giving a, once again, it's a rule of thumb. It depends on your bioload, your uptake, and everything else. Like if you have a very, very heavy bioloaded system, it's going to utilize up a lot more of the trace elements. Whereas if you have a couple of, frags, how much alkalinity and calcium are you actually utilizing if you only have 2 frags in a 250-gallon system?
Yeah.
Not much. So it's based on bioload for the most part, and also biodiversity. And, once again, you're talking about the amphipods, the crustaceans, all the coralline algae that's going to be growing in your system or in a mature system.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, utilization is dependent on bioload.
Right. The 2-pound box recommended it be used for a 30-gallon system. So if that helps anybody, that was what was on the box.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
It'd be a good thing if I say in my reactor,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going off like a rule where I'm assuming it's going to be utilized.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just going off, if I keep it in, I'm using that much, like the normal 10 pounds, 18 months. So I've just gone off, like if I use 1.5 pounds over 3 months and do it through the full tub, I get like the full amount out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's the way I'm going off it. That's the way I've gone off it. I'm thinking, well, that to me, that seems like the logical thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yep.
And without actually, Triton testing once a week to see what's going on, you can only do that. You can only do what you're doing.
But
yeah,
it was actually one of the interesting conversations that I had with Lang, as well as, well, how much would it matter if it depletes almost to zero? And Lang and I were actually discussing that, and we're like, well, their tank actually had the benefit of utilizing it, during that time, that whatever trace is still in the system is still better than nothing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A little bit, even though it's not at the optimum levels, it's still a lot better than having nothing at all.
Well, sure, drink 8 glasses of water a day, but if you drink 3 or 4, it's better than not having any.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. So that was one of the concerns that we had, trying to find the perfect balance or the recommendations of, do we need to change it 100% of the time every 6 months? If you're not doing large water changes and you're not doing frequent water changes, the minerals stay in the system, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
What it is basically a nutrient exchange, not necessarily a nutrient export.
Right.
Does that kind of make sense? It makes it more of a cycle than an input-output kind of system.
Right. What I'm wrestling with now is I haven't been doing as many water changes because I've been dosing and holding everything right where it needs to be. But at the same time, I've been growing a lot of macroalgae, and some of it's dragon's breath. So I tested for iron the other day, and it was undetectable on my Red Sea test kit. So I think the water change would be putting the iron back in.
I would dose the iron back, iron chelate or iron gluconate. The ferrous gluconate is a little bit more bioavailable to plants.
Is there a name brand or something written on the bottle that I can go buy at the LFS or?
Well, I mean, there's the one from there's one from CChem. There's another one from Reef Pro called Iron Pro or Ferrous Pro.
Hey Dave, I have iron. I have I have a Triton iron that if you need it, I wish you had spoken about it today. I just saw you a couple hours ago, but yeah, I can absolutely give you some iron if you just want a one-time adjust. Oh, Dave, remember when I bought I have the Triton iron, but when I bought the Pax Bellum reactor, I think they gave me iron.
Right.
So
Here's what I know about the iron and iodine. Also, is two things: is that my red dragon's breath is no longer doing well in my main display. But if I throw it over into my nanocube, it blossoms and grows incredibly. So there's definitely something different in those two water systems that I'm missing in one and plenty of in the other.
Yeah, you know what I've noticed in 1 year of using Chaeto reactors. Like I think we spoke about this before, where if you don't, like, now that I'm using Triton, and I think Triton has balanced elements for macroalgae in it, right. But if you don't do water changes and you use like a Chaeto reactor, the first month or 6 weeks, maybe up to 2 months, you get furious growth. And then no matter what you do after, you could feed heavy, the growth gets stunted and it'll turn like a really dark green, and it won't grow anymore. And I always suspected it's because, like, there's something in the water that the macroalgae is completely used up and it needs it. And, then I start once, Cruz, I think it was you. Remember when I was having trouble with like pronouncing molybdenum? When I bought the Pax Bellum, okay, there you go again. There you go again.
Don't say.
Once I bought the Pax Bellum reactor and it came with MB and iron, that's when I started thinking, maybe potassium. Yes, that's another one too. In fact, my tank uses so much potassium that I ended up having to get like the big Triton bottle of potassium, because every time I do a Triton test, it's like I'm way below suggested level. So my tank uses so much potassium. I might even put potassium on like one of the dosing pumps, like 1 mil or 2 mils a day, because so there are some levels. I don't know what they are. Like I guess iron is one, and I'm guessing potassium. Like Cruz is saying potassium and iron, which I have to agree with Cruz, because right. But there are these elements that when you're growing Chaeto aggressively, I'm sorry, Paul, I'm gonna mute you for a second. It's your stream. But yeah, there's some elements that the Chaeto uses, and when it's used up, the macroalgae growth gets stunted, and there's nothing you could do. If you do a water change, you do a 10% water change, you're only putting 10% of that element back, and then like that Chaeto is again. Yep, and you're back at stage one.
Yep. Yeah, so that's what I was getting, this false sense of security that I was holding my parameters, meaning calcium, magnesium, and alkalinity. But meanwhile, I'm still not doing a balling method or a Triton method, so I still need to do something to put it back in there.
Ace is asking, what should potassium be? So I'm gonna pull up in the background, pull up my Triton test on what Triton recommends. So I don't know what optimal is.
Around 300.
Yeah. Whatever it was, I was like
optimum. 300, 400.
If it was 300, I was 295, and if it was 400, I was 395. I forget what I did a test on it, but I was like, okay, that's close enough.
Yep. Absolutely.
Test kits will always tell you. You also want to know iodine and iron level.
So right now, I do like a few drops. I forgot Triton. Based on the last 3 Triton tests I did. Right now, I'm doing a Triton test every 2 months or so. Like I'm seeing a pattern. So by default now, I drop a couple mils of potassium and some stuff in per week. It's not enough because but I think it's better than nothing, because the potassium test kit was so hard, I didn't want to bother with it. So, but my Pax Bellum reactor, I have the small one. I harvest just out of the Pax Bellum reactor like a 1/4 pound of Chaeto like every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, like clockwork, like a 1/4 pound of Chaeto. And I mean, 1/4 pound doesn't sound like a lot, but for a 75-gallon tank, like that's a lot. It's a big amount every 2 weeks. Yeah. It's a good amount every 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks by clockwork, like I I have to harvest it or it's full. So I harvested it 2 weeks ago, and it's full to the top again. So yeah. I got to study the chemistry more because I got to study the chemistry more, really get into why. I really maybe have to read some papers, read up about it a little bit more if I can figure out why. Like what does macroalgae need?
If I may make a suggestion, look to the planted tank world. If the hobby of planted aquariums, and you'll find a lot of information about utilization, absorption, the necessary, a lot of the light spectrum stuff, a lot of the gas exchange, the dark cycles, understanding the Krebs cycle in a freaking plant, understanding that when it's dark, that the plants also expel CO2 when it's not photosynthesizing. These little things that people don't truly understand, or they forgot about from grade school and physical science. It doesn't change. The respiration of a plant is just as much as the oxygen that they produce. So the oxygen that they're producing is used up during the nighttime, during the dark cycle, if the dark cycle is equal to that of the light cycle.
You could actually do harm by having a big refrigerant and not running it correctly.
Correct.
Do more harm than good.
And that's one of the reasons why when we do the alternate method too, to also bolster up the oxygen levels during the dark cycle for the plants.
Right.
So, it keeps the pH a lot more stable.
There's a whole line of aqua vitro products for planted tanks that may even be able to help you. I don't know, but it does raise interest.
We utilize the phosphorus. We utilize the nitrogen source. We also utilize the C-Chem, for planted tanks. Even though there's a little bit of copper in it, the thing is that you're talking about micrograms or 1 TPB, trillions, parts per billion. It's a very, very small, minute amount. And copper is necessary just, for reef inhabitants, just not so much.
Yep.
Does that make sense? So.
Yeah, and the plants will pick it up before it can build up to something that can harm your coral. If you have plants. Again, it's all a balancing act.
Yes, sir. And I know that people also talk about how do you raise macroalgae and get rid of the nuisance algae and utilize that to outcompete. One of the people that I've been mentoring, her name's Kelly Delaverne over here in the United States, in Indiana. She does a lot of the seahorse breeding and the macroalgae tank. She's also going to be doing a video on that very, very shortly.
Interesting.
So there's all about out competition, the correct light cycles, lowering your DT lights and intensity, just to keep the nuisance algae, shortening the friggin' the light cycle times in the display tanks to outcompete the nuisance algae, or what we call the simple algae. And the simple algae are the ones that don't have noticeable structures. And the noticeable structures that I'm talking about is an anchor root, a stem, a defined stem, and also specialized leaf, what we would call leaves on the chlorpa plant, those kind of structures where, also kind of like the alvacia too, there's a leaf part of it and there's the stem little body part of it. Am I right? Am I right, Dave? There's a big difference between simple algae and what we call more complex algae. And the complex algae, they replicate slower, they grow slower than the isocropsis, a lot of these other single cellular algae. And the only way to get rid of that green water is to outcompete it with something even more proliferous, which is bacteria. And that bacteria is what actually outcompetes a lot of the nuisance algae as well. So not only is lighting cycle and everything else, but also bacterial balance in your system to actually do a lot of the nutrient export.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I geeked out again.
No, that's all right. I try to follow. You know, every time I do that, I get a little further along, so it's okay.
Hey, Cruz. What? Now that I'm doing Triton, and with everything I'm doing, the reactor and everything, nutrients are not a problem. Nutrients are absolutely not a problem. And the fact now that, you know, I have a little library of elements that every time I get a Triton test, I auto-correct these little things that are off. Now, you know, when would you recommend and say, you know, is it time to do like a refresh water change? Would it be every 6 months, once a year, you know, sort of like something build up that you don't know about and Triton doesn't test for? You know, would it be once a year? Like you just do a refresh just to, you know, let's say just give the tank a fresh start, a refresh?
My personal opinion, Seymour.
That's a very, very good question, but a very, very open-ended question, especially with all the different products out there nowadays. I can't really pinpoint or give a blanket statement saying, oh yeah, once a year or 6 months. It really depends on what you're actually dosing to your tank.
What do you think, Paul?
The drain as opposed to what's coming in with the new water is the biggest question in my head.
Yeah, the thing is, I'd get a decent base salt. So you get a base salt, but I'd do it when you physically look at you. I think when you look at your system and you think, you know what, it's not looking as good as it did a few months back. That's when I'd do it.
I got a good base salt now because
You know
I have the Tropic Marin, and actually I might try, what was it, the Fritz that matches Triton elements even better. So yeah, I do have salt that I think, you know, I can do. And by the way, even before I did Triton, I've always been a fan of like doing large water changes because I'm somebody that never seen like ill effects of doing like a big water change. Like I think I've done in the 6 years I've been reefing, I've done 100% water changes like a number of times. Not every time, but I've probably done it like once a year. I've probably done it 6 times. I don't think I've ever seen like ill effects of doing like a 100% water change. You know, because if I'm at the point where I'm
Think of this, right? When you're emptying your skimmer, that's salt water. Do you put that salt water back into your system?
No.
No. So when you empty your skimmer, that's salt water. So do you not check your salinity?
Yeah, I do.
I'm saying you should be putting that salt water back into your system. So just over a month period, you might empty 2 liters of water out of your system.
Even Salt Creek, you got to keep an eye on your salinity.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that salt, when you put that back into your system, that 2 liters of water, it's got to be salt water you're putting back in. That's a water change because you're putting it back in.
Well,
so if you do that over a year, you're doing little water changes, but you're doing them at a rate where you don't even know that you're doing them.
I see. Because the salt, I check my salinity. I do it now, let's say, about every time I'm refilling the ATO container. Because to be honest, the salt, at least in my instance, the salt thing on Neptune system is really almost useless. The salinity, bro.
Yeah. Do you know what I do, Seymour? Like every month or so, what I do, I don't even think about it. I'll just get like a spoonful of salt and I'll put it into my filter sock. Just automatically just throw it into my filter sock. You know what I mean? So that'll mix in itself and it puts it back into the system. That's because I know that I'm emptying my skimmer all the time. So I know that me putting that like spoonful of salt back in.
It's funny you say that.
Replenishing it.
I was talking to Nick about that. I had all these reef crystals still laying around, and he said, "Put a scoop in your ATO every once in a while."
Yeah, well, that's what I do.
I won't put it in your auto top up. I won't do that.
Okay.
But I would put it in like a scoop in your filter sock. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mix up a little bit of water. Like I make some concentrated salt water, like really concentrated salt water. When my salinity's off a little bit, I just make some concentrated salt water and slowly pour it into the sump.
You have to
Yeah.
work precipitation. You highly concentrate a salt mix.
Yeah, like
Could
highly
it
concentrated.
precipitate? Could it precipitate? I'm just curious. Or are all the levels correct where it will hold together?
Yeah, but I'm talking like a gallon. So I'm not, it's not going to affect the overall levels of like a 75-gallon tank. I really only want to raise the salt level.
No, I'm just thinking about in the gallon when you mix it that high. Would your
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. Yes, I do, because I see things at the bottom. But I'm really pouring it in slowly over the course of maybe an hour or so, just to raise the salinity a little bit. So I'm not really using it to raise the levels per se. I just want to adjust my salt slowly.
I got you. It was a question in my head that I said out loud. That's all.
Absolutely. Yeah, you do see the stuff in the bottom. Yeah. And no matter, I've put a power head before in like a 1-gallon container to try to mix that stuff out. And you could never get it clear when you're mixing like that concentrated of salt water. But like I said, I'm not doing it to like levels. I just want to raise salinity a little bit. So, I just make some super concentrated, because Paul is right. Something I don't think about a lot, but he's right. As you're emptying the skimmer cup, I got a gigantic skimmer cup that I empty about every 7 to 8 days. And that's a lot of salt water. You empty it every 2 weeks. It's about a gallon.
Especially if you're skimming on a light, a very wet skim. You're pulling out more salt, I feel.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
no, you definitely are. That's more salt water, yeah.
Yeah, I think that the point that that Dave was trying to make is when you make something so super concentrated like that, there's a saturation point for all the dissolving, the alkalinity, the carbonates, all the calcium, magnesium, and all that balance. And you're truly not getting a consistent mix. Do you know what I'm saying, Oral?
Yeah, I hear you.
So it's a concern. If you actually mix a 1.035, I would say that's fine. But when you start going into super concentrate, the sodium and chloride would actually overpower the magnesium chloride. Does that make sense? Until you raise the temperature. Once you raise the temperature of the water, then you could actually dissolve more.
Is that really? Is that true?
Yeah, because there's something called, I forget if it's called hyposolution or something like that. There's only so much you can dissolve into a liquid of certain
hypersalinity, as they call it.
Okay.
So the hypersalinization, you need to raise the temperature if you're actually going to dissolve it that concentrate.
That's why I like the little idea of just throwing a scoop in your ATO every now and then, and it'll.
Interesting. You know what? I'm gonna try that. I need you know what? Thank you guys, because I need to make a purchase now, because I don't have a secondary heater. I need a secondary heater, because if I'm going to be doing any water changes this winter, I don't. My other heater failed, so I am going. Yeah, all right. I'm just making a mental note here of another piece of equipment I potentially need.
You know what I do? Oh, I bought a cheap power head from Petco and found out that it raises the temperature of my tank. So now that's my new mixing power head. I heat and mix at this.
Dave, dude, I told you, man. I got power heads here for days. Like, why are you buying power heads, man? And then
it kind of looked like a MaxiJet 1200. Had all the little bells and whistles. And I said, this will be neat. And I threw it in there, and my tank was like 85 degrees just from the power head.
Oh wow!
Cruz.
Yeah.
I was going to say, would you say small water changes regularly is better than a big water change not regularly?
I would say no water change.
No. That's what I'm saying. No, I'm not saying that. But like people that do water changes that don't.
Big ones. I recommend big ones, because I think if you have 100 ppm of nitrate and you're doing a 10% water change, like you're only down to 90. While if you wait, you know what? That's actually.
No, I wouldn't say that like that. Yeah, I'm not saying that like that, Seymour. I mean, like people that have got perfect tanks, but they do water changes.
I do
you know
more than 50%.
If they did smaller water changes, just say like some people do the drip method, which is a constant water change. I know some people that change a litre a day. So they'll scoop a litre out and they'll put a litre of fresh in.
Well,
Do you know what I mean? Some people do it at the end of the week.
I've never been on the
little by little.
I've never been, even before Triton, I've never been a fan of the doing water changes just for the sake of water changes, because even when I used to carbon dose and stuff like that, if my nutrients are low and I'm dosing like the elements, I've never been, you know, for different reasons, because it's just
I don't rush to do a water change.
Yeah, it's hard for me to do a water change in an apartment, but I've never been a fan. I'm like, my nitrates are low. Like I have friends that just do a water change religiously every week, no matter what happens, 10% water change. Like it doesn't matter if the tank is great or the tank is poor, whatever's happening, it's a 10% water change every week, like religiously. Like that's just a thing. That's their thing. And I've always thought like, man, you guys are crazy. Like you don't even, you know, nothing's wrong. Nitrates are low. Like why do a water change? It just made them feel better.
Habit. It's
yeah,
a habit. It's like touching your chin before you eat something. You touch the food with your chin before you put it in your mouth. So, some little religious regimen, or I want to call a feel good. Do you know what I'm saying? There's some people that, you know, they do the water changes because it makes them feel good. You know, and I'm all for them feeling good. Don't get me wrong. You know, I like you know, happy hobbyists. So I try not to discredit or try to criticize them for that. But yeah, if I was to do water changes, me personally, to replace elements and stuff like that, you know, if we're going back to it without the miracle mud, so on and so forth, and the salt is a good salt with all of the trace elements, blah, 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 so on and so forth, you know, the ideal salt, I would do more than the 50% water change, because at that point now you have the benefit of actually raising your trace element levels, because at that point it's already 50% dilute. Does that kind of make sense?
Yep.
And I would do it more often in order to actually raise up the overall trace element levels and so on and so forth.
Well, I guess what I need is a good trace element additive, or I should go to Triton, like Reefing with O keeps telling me.
Yo, man, I'll tell you, man. I'll tell you, bro.
We also have Reef Anabolics too, which is also a trace element additive. There's also Reef Grow that we also sell too, which is also another supplemental additive as well.
Now, bringing my Miracle Mud up to the suggested amount, would that be a good starting place?
It's a good starting place, but once again, you can't adjust certain things. It's kind of like a halide and a T5. You can't really adjust. You know, you can't do too much fine tuning.
It's more of a buffer.
It's a good safety net. Yeah, it's a good safety net.
Okay.
It's a good base to start building something off of.
Because what the hell, man? I bought 2 pounds of this stuff and I still have no iron. What's going on, Cruz?
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, your utilization's probably a lot faster than it's actually leaching out.
Yeah, I got a head of lettuce size of dragon's breath. So.
Yeah, you're sucking it out pretty fast.
Yeah, I got to cut it up and give it away, or throw it away. I keep telling people I'll give it away, and they're like, "I'm in Ohio or I'm in LA. Can you send me?" No, I'm not shipping it. I'm throwing it away.
I'm feeding it to my tank.
I'll hand you a bag of it.
Yeah, feed it to your tank. Put it back in. Put all the iron that is sucked out back into the system.
Yeah, I have been doing that in small pieces. The fox face really goes at it.
Yep.
Oh, man,
That's
Dave.
what we do with. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Dave, I know there was something else I should have given you today. The bio balls. I just remember.
Yeah, I know. I thought you were gonna come down and tell me what to get at Golden Crust for lunch.
Oh.
Hey guys, I have to dip out for a little bit before the aquatic. I need to get a couple of shirts made.
Hey, thanks for all the help, Philip. Really appreciated all the Miracle Mud suggestions and.
Yeah, cheers for jumping in, Cruz.
No,
always
not a problem
appreciate
at all. It's always a pleasure to talk about just reefing in general. As you guys can see, I also am a hobbyist at heart. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it to death. I did a lot of research when I was in college. I took classes that I didn't need to, you know, in marine biology, over the East, over there at the USC on Catalina Island. Did a lot of marine biology over there at San Diego as well, and over there in Oahu at HPU.
You did pretty good on your
electrical.
Yeah, you did pretty good on your electronics.
I love science. I'm a nerd.
That's good. We're all nerds, but some are different.
The thing is, Bruce, yeah. He actually spoke what we could understand this time instead of like speaking like a chemist. That's when we were like, whoa, 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 whoa.
I hung out pretty good this time. I was proud of myself.
I'm proud of all of you.
I'm patting my own back right now.
All right, well, I got to get going, guys, before they close. So I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Bruce.
All right.
Cheers for jumping in, mate. You're good.
All right, have a good
See
one,
you
guys.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, Paul, now you can talk.
What's up, Paul?
Well, I can't top what Cruz does.
I am tired, man. I need some coffee to stay up. Jeez. Reef, how are you up, man?
I didn't get much sleep last night.
Dude, I was
live stream, then I had to get up early.
Yeah, I was up till 3:30 talking to Mage and Michael. I'll probably do another marathon tonight. And Reef too.
Oh, who's streaming tonight? I saw somebody streaming tonight.
It's Reef Dudes starts at 6. Reef Dudes at 6, and then Fisher Hex is at 9.
I got you. Okay, that's who it was.
What time? 6?
6 is in 18 minutes.
Okay, so
no.
18 minutes, and then 3 hours after that is Fish of Hex.
So when Devin usually shuts down his stream about 8, then Fisher Hex stream.
Yeah, his is pretty good. He's got a good stream. They're both great.
I've never checked it out.
Is Reef Dudes starting in 15 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, is Reef Dudes starting in 15 minutes?
He does.
Yeah, he does.
Watching now will go down 15 minutes.
Yeah, lad, I'm going to shut this down because I've just got a message. I've just got a message that my mate's just died. So I'm just going to shut this down. I'm going to go.
Oh, geez. Sorry to hear that, bud.
All right, so...
Yeah, I've just got a message now.
All right, so...
I'll shut this down because Reef Dudes starting in 15 minutes anyway.
Yeah.
Fish is Fish of Hex, not a Hex. And I'm sure you can find them if you just do Fish, O-F-H-E-X.
Yeah, Fish of Hex.
And Reef Dudes, Reef Dudes, he's a dev. He's always on Rico's live streams.
Yeah, so Reef Dudes, just search for Reef Dudes. You know Reef Dudes. He'll have 15 minutes. I'll see you there if you can. Yeah,
I could throw a link in the chat for Reef Dudes stream.
Yeah, you throw a link in the chat, Dave. I'm going to shut this down now.
All right, Paul. I hope everything is all right, man.
All right, cheers, mate.
All right.
See you later, people.
All right, bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
I can't find you by some reason.